Welcome back to the Better People Podcast.
So, Jones, I want you to educate me on what's happening in the world because I literally am living in the Shire. I'm a hobbit at this point. I don't know what's going on. I don't even hear the rumblings. That's how
Uh-huh.
shut down I am on a lot of things. Now, every now and then, someone will bring up something to me. And so, one of the most recent things that just happened inside of Black History Month is the Super Bowl halftime show, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
Bad
yeah.
Bunny, right? So I knew we were going to have a discussion about it. So I went and took a look at it just this morning to kind of get a sense of what it was and the energy behind it. And so I do want to have a little bit of a discussion around that. But my question to you before we even start is, did you know that Keenan Ivory Wayans and the Super Bowl had some type of connection? Are you familiar with that connection?
So I do. I remember as a I don't know if I was still a kid or I was out of the Navy, but I remember that in Living Color did a show during and they slotted it, Fox slotted it at the same time as the halftime show, and everybody that was watching the Super Bowl left and went and watched in Living Color. Um, and they lost millions of dollars because people were paying all that money for those advertising slots and stuff. And so after that point, the Super Bowl was like, okay, we have to come with the absolute best, performers and the folks who are going to reach the most folks. So it's interesting, yeah, yeah, it's very interesting because I had a similar conversation last year when someone said like, they should not have picked Kendrick for the halftime show, and then I had to educate him like, no, let me explain to you why Kendrick is, and they're not going to miss. The Super Bowl is not going to miss on that halftime performance. They're going to pick the best, most prolific performer to perform, and
Yeah,
so
because the first person was Michael Jackson.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So interesting that they said they shouldn't have picked Kendrick. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so because there was a beef 'cause last year was in New Orleans and folks were saying like, oh well, that's Lil Wayne's backyard, and he could have like had him and then all of his other performers that are kind of under him. It could have just been an amazing thing. And people don't know Kendrick. Like they were saying LL would have been a better choice. They started talking about all of these others. And I was like, you don't know because it was right after the pop out, which was the highest viewed streaming concert ever
Yeah.
amongst all genres. And then, Kendrick had like one of his tours was the most watched hip hop show or attended hip hop show of all times. And so folks just weren't, just because they weren't rocking with Kendrick at the time, they were like, yeah, he's not, and he's too political or too conscious. People don't want to hear that, blah, 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 blah. And so that was kind of the vibe. And then, Kendrick did what he did, and it was like, yeah.
You know what's interesting is a lot of people had an issue with Bad Bunny's performance or his presence primarily because it wasn't in English, or one of the reasons because it wasn't in
Mhm.
English. And the thought that came to mind was, in a sense, Kendrick's wasn't either because that's what their claim was, that they couldn't understand what he was talking about. So, what do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of folks, their take on Kendrick, so it's like, I didn't get it, I didn't understand it, which is like, okay. And I even see, some black folks from urban areas saying that they didn't get it, they couldn't connect with it. Um, these were Christians, that I'm speaking of. And I was like, man, that's interesting. And then Bad Bunny was like, they didn't. So it's not the language, right? It's the message or the refusal of the message or the not wanting to see some things. And
Hmm.
I think that's American
Talk to me.
for sure.
What do you
Um,
mean?
I,
Hmm.
I think that in America um, we have this delusion of grandeur of who we are, what we are. And so we see things through that lens and we can't see things through that same lens. Um, I think that's due to the indoctrination and all that stuff, like all of the spectacle, all of the indoctrination from day one, right? We're saying the Pledge of Allegiance every day. Um, Around these ideas around like justice for all, which has never been a reality, right? With liberty and justice for all, that's how we end that mug, right? Like that's never been a reality, and that's
Yeah.
never been a goal. It's never been a reality. It's never been a goal. It's never been. Um, we've never pursued that as a nation.
Mm.
And I think that's who we've been. Like when we oftentimes we look in the past and be like, oh man, that man, we weren't very good back then, but we've gotten better. I think we've to quote Cornel West, like we've deodorized who and what we are.
Mm.
So we can't smell the funk, but it's
Mm.
it's musty. Like we're musty. Uh, and so and so when you have artists like Kendrick and a Bad Bunny that have performances that have strong critiques of the empire, then folks can't see it or averse to it.
Okay, so I guess my question for you then is obviously this was a controversial performance. What do you think that the artist was trying to communicate?
Um, I think, I mean, his refusal to speak English in the performance was just dope. I think, um, and I know a little Spanish, but like when it's happening in that pace and that rate, I wasn't able to understand the words that were coming out of his mouth, but I was able to understand that some of the messaging around just like how he just embraced the culture. Um, it's Puerto Rican culture, Latin American culture, American culture, and I think that was his main message. Like, this is America, and it's interesting because I think a lot of the rest of the world, like they see the Americas, like they don't see North America or they see the Americas, and I think when Bad Bunny put that stamp on the end of it, like God bless America, and then went through all of the Central America, South America, and North American countries. I think that was a statement with, you know, love is greater than hate was like, I think, yeah, all of that. I think his alluding to the blackouts in Puerto Rico when he was climbing on the telephone poles,
Hmm.
uh, you know, and I think that was a shot at President Trump and America for not responding.
Mm.
And analogous to Katrina. Um, the embracing of the wedding on the stage, the little kid who he gave the Grammy to, who resembled the young kid who has been recently detained by ICE
Mm.
in a just nasty, nasty way.
Mm.
And so I think he was, if you just watch it, it's upbeat, it's positive, it's with a smile, it's with a positive disposition,
Yeah,
while still addressing these different scenarios and situations. The shout out to the elders, playing chess or playing a board game out on the street. You know, the bodega with some of the stars. And I think, yeah, it was just dope. It was dope. I wish I would have done more research to kind of
yeah,
pull out some of the other hidden things. I think a lot of stuff
sure.
I'm talking about to me is just kind of really surface stuff.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think all of that is saying like, hey, like this is a very rich culture that is very celebratory. I think even the dancing, some folks had issues with like some of the sensual moves that some of the
Sure.
dancers make, but that's part of the culture, right?
Yeah.
But I also think that is also a critique on America and how we view sensuality, sexuality, and this purity culture that stems out of Christianity.
That's very interesting because I don't think there's very many places where you're going to find this purity really on stage. It's so yeah, that's a very interesting thing. The thought that came to mind while you were talking and saying that he was talking about these serious things, but he did it in a light way. Deodorizing just kind of came to mind. So
Mm,
it's like, let me help you digest this in a sense, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even with like the Lady Gaga, I think that one of the lines before is like, I think this is what you wanted, and then Lady Gaga does her rendition of one of her tracks in a more like uh, cultured way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I thought was really dope. I think it's interesting to hear some of the critiques, right? You hear some of the critiques of folks who are like, wait a minute, like of all the performers he could have gotten, he got Lady Gaga. Like, why did he get this white lady in the midst of this? And then the other critiques is like, oh, that's the only white person we saw throughout the whole thing. It was completely un-American, blah, 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 blah.
Very
Yeah, it's
interesting.
just so interesting. It's so fascinating to hear folks talk about this.
Yeah, I think well, I guess my next question to you, Jones, is what difference is it going to make?
Um, I'm not sure. I think in the same way that Kendrick's performance was a critique, and I think it kind of galvanized a group of folks. It kind of gave a group of folks some hope and some celebration. Um, I'm not sure. I think uh, what art has done historically, um, in the civil rights movement, when we talk thinking about like Marvin Gaye and some of the artists back in the 60s who were really like speaking to that. Even when we come into like the 80s with Public Enemy and X Clan and some of the more conscious hip hop artists, I think it galvanizes people and it kind of reframes the mind or allows some scales to fall off so folks can kind of be looking at things a little bit more critical.
Mm,
Um, while also embracing and celebrating. So I'm not sure how much it would do as much as it will um, hopefully inspire and
mhm.
encourage folks. I think that the revolution not being televised, it's happening one person at a time in small increments. Um, and I think Bad Bunny's performance pushes us in that direction. And I think it also um, agitates. It agitates those um, who are more uh, who are less inclusive. I mean, Bad Bunny, they had a whole alternate like Super Bowl, right? Halftime show.
Yeah,
Like, and so
yeah.
I think you said what it did it do? Like it did that before it even started. And again, I think that causes more scales to fall off. Like, wait, an alternative. And then some folks are like, yeah, we need this. Um, and and so it was interesting. I saw this post. This preacher was kind of talking about the contrast between the two. And he was talking about the alternative one, how it was unapologetically, explicitly Christian,
Mm,
and it was unapologetically, explicitly American. There was no doubt about it. Whereas the other one, the main one, uh, he wasn't sure what he was seeing. He's like, I'm not sure what that was. I didn't understand it. I couldn't connect to it. And so there is this feeling of being alienated, which I thought was very interesting
mm,
because the critique that he was having on that is the very thing that we see, throughout scripture, right? Like God is very intentional about alienating people and having
hmm.
like this, but he was saying like, and I think that's what this one did, where he felt that the Bad Bunny one alienated him and his culture and his belief systems. It's fascinating.
Did you get a chance to see the other one?
No, nah, I didn't even
Why?
um I just didn't even want to. I don't think I wanted to validate that. It was I don't think I would like it. Um yeah.
So, I mean, if you had to say what's the conflict that exists in culture today, how would you, is it Christian against culture? Is that what the issue is right now? And if in fact that is the problem, and I hear that there's like, hints of civil war. Is it going to be between culture and Christians? What is this whole thing that's happening?
Um it's hard to say. It's interesting because because I don't believe there is a Christian culture anymore,
Okay.
or a defined Christian culture, because we have like, the largest Christian organization, which is Catholicism, and then we have white Christianity, then we have like Black Christianity, and when we look at like just contrasting Black Christianity and white Christianity, like how they voted in the last election cycle, it's complete opposite. And so you even now even have, and I don't know if you've seen, but you have now a lot of, or some white Christians and some Black Christians saying that like the Black church isn't the real church
Oh, I
because,
didn't know that.
oh, you haven't seen that.
I have not.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. There's like folks speaking like very like matter of factly, like the Black Christian church is 80% heretical.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have to see the clip. I have to find the clip, and hopefully you could like drop it in here. But
Okay.
yeah, like this dude is saying that 80% of Black Christian churches are heretical and do not hold to like doctrines that are aligned with uh you know true doctrine. And
That's
so
very interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And it might be just a couple quacks with, but like I say, but of course that's what gets promoted, right? In social media, like the way out stuff. But if you look at how we're voting, you can like there are two very different ideas
Mm-hmm.
within the Black church and within the white church. When you just look at the voting patterns,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's fascinating. And then you have Catholicism, who is now, and with Catholicism, like the Pope is like drives it, right? Like it's the Pope tradition, then Scripture, right?
Okay.
As far as authority,
Right.
right? So the Pope has, so now we have a Pope who is like anti-ICE. We have a Pope who is more leaning toward inclusion. And so now you have, Catholicism kind of um, in an identity crisis as well. Uh, and so when you look at all that, but at the end of the day, I think there are these fundamental beliefs and doctrines that stem out of the scriptures. I think whether it's white Christianity, Black Christianity, or Catholicism, they're all coming out of this book that is um, extremely harmful and unhealthy.
Mm. Mm. Okay. You
Yeah.
want to expound a little bit on that?
Um, I kind of spoke to it earlier when we see the God of Scripture otherizing folks, right? Like uh, out the gate.
Earlier, earlier meaning previous podcast.
No, in this conversation, I think I talked about like the otherizing. Well, maybe I did. Maybe it could have been in another podcast. Hold on. But we see this God early on saying, I'm picking Israel. I've chosen you. Like y'all are my peeps. As soon as they come out of Egypt, uh, and they're free now. One of the very first things he says is like, "Hey, like when y'all are coming out and like, and you're having slaves, like you can have like your brother slaves. Like this is how you treat them, right? If it's a fellow Israelite, like this is how you treat these slaves." Um, and it's only for 7 years and all of these different rules and stipulations. But when you are going out to get more slaves of different people, like this is how you treat them, right? And you can have them for life, and you can have their children for life, and so that's where we get the chattel slavery from. And so in Scripture, God is very clear about two different types of slavery that He allows or that He prescribes. Like God is prescribing this, right? Like the slavery for the people that are like us, and then there's slavery for people that aren't like us. Um, and then he says, as you go out, because right there are nomadic people, as you're entering into a land, go out and make terms with people. Like go out, say, hey, we're coming. Y'all can be our slaves, or we can go to war. And so this is what God tells his people. And so if the people choose to go to war, then you go in and you can kill everybody in that land except for the virgin girls. Um, and then you can give them 30 days to mourn, and then you can go into them, right? And if you're not pleased with them, then you can kind of let them go.
Okay.
Right. And from that point on, from that's Exodus and Deuteronomy on, we see that type of thing. And we see like whether it's the Amalekites, the Hittites, like this is how you treat these people. You go in there and you kill all of them. You kill man, woman, child. Um, for the Amalekites, it was even infants. He specifically calls it out, like kill the infants, like kill the men, women, children, and infants and all the livestock. Um, so we see that all throughout scripture, that this otherizing happens. And I think that type of mentality it affects us to where, this is kind of how it is. We even see it in like even when the Jesus guy comes in, right? Jesus comes in and he's like, just wiling out on people, right? Like calls that woman's child, like, dog, like, hey, can you please just heal my daughter? He's like, I'm not here to, I'm not here to heal the dogs. Like that wouldn't be right. I'm here to heal the children of Israel. And she's like, yeah, even the dogs. And Jesus like, there you go. That's the type of humility and faith I want. Yes, call yourself a dog. I'm gonna heal your child now, right? Like,
Is that how you see it? Is that how you?
no,
Okay.
that's how. I mean, that's how the text goes. So the text goes. I mean, yeah,
You
you know.
know,
I
uh,
came for, and he even says, I came for the household of Israel. Like, this is what it is. Yeah.
interesting.
It is. Like,
Interesting. You know what I'm
but
gonna
I think that thinking, because it's so throughout scripture, like, do good to all people, but especially those in the household of faith, right? Like, there's all of these themes and messages throughout the scripture that has there's us and there's them, and how we treat us is different than how we treat them. And I think that's what we see in Christianity.
Hold on 1 second here, Jones.
can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I had to switch it over primarily because I'm not going to be able to the recording is going to be a little off if I kept it where I was on my phone.
Okay.
Okay.
I know.
You said a lot there, bro. You said a lot. Hold on. It's very interesting take in a sense. Not surprisingly so. I mean, obviously, we know where you are in terms of your perspective of Christianity now. And so, um, you know, the Better People podcast has been developed so that people can understand other views, see things through other lens. And so I think it's important that you speak about this. I think it's important, especially because you're an ex-pastor, and so I think so. It is what it is, Jones, and
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a very interesting perspective coming from you, primarily
Mhm.
because of what your view once was and how you were very passionate and preached, you know, these messages completely opposite of where you are now. And so, that's why for me it's
Shocking.
interesting.
Shocking.
Mm, I think in today's culture, I'm not sure if it's shocking. Shocking is probably not the word that I would use. I think it's very
Mhm.
interesting. I think you speak for a lot of people. And I think you're willing to say some things that a lot of people aren't willing to even think about. And so for that reason, I think it's an important space to.
Like we see it in the text, but I think even we look throughout history, we see the fruit of that, right? We see like the Bible and Scripture being used to subjugate people and to colonize uh, countries and communities, and so it makes sense. Like that's what we see in the text, and that's what we.
So, do you have a goal?
Do I have a goal?
Yeah, what's your goal
Um,
in sharing?
think I think when I'm having conversations like this, and I'm
Hmm.
having more and more of them, is to add to hope that folks would think and see that ugliness inside of them, in the same way that I see it inside of me.